this lesson, we're going to learn about a technique called polynomial long division. It's a form of factoring technique where we divide a factor. We can divide a factor out of a larger polynomial, okay? And so I'm just going to show you how to do it by examples. So we're going to divide this polynomial x to the fourth minus 5x to the third minus 17x squared plus 20x plus 13. We're going to divide it by the binomial x minus 7. What we're going to do is we're going to set it up the way you're accustomed to with division. You've probably seen division, you know, where you do on what you're dividing by on the outside, and then you have this thing, and you put the dividend underneath. So we're going to put x to the fourth here, minus 5x to the third, minus 17x squared, plus 20x plus 13. Okay. And so basically what you do is you can sort of ignore this minus 7 when you're doing the dividing. The minus 7 will come into play when we do the multiplying. But when you're initially deciding what to divide, you can ignore the minus 7. We're really just going to focus on the x. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this first term, just the x to the fourth, none of the other things. We're going to divide it by the first term here, x. So we're going to do x to the fourth divided by x. Well, x to the fourth divided by x, if we take one x out of x to the fourth, that gives us x to the third. So x to the fourth divided by x is x to the third. Then what we're going to do is we are going to multiply x to the third. Whatever we put up here, we're going to multiply it by this whole thing. We're going to distribute it, okay? We're going to multiply the x to the third times the x. Then we're going to multiply the x to the third times the negative 7. And then we're going to write them down here, okay? So we're going to multiply x to the third times x, and that gives us x to the fourth. We're going to write it right underneath the x to the fourth. And then we're going to do something very important. We're going to change the sign of the x to the fourth. We're going to make it minus, okay? We're going to do the same thing when we multiply the x to the third times the negative 7. So x to the third times negative 7 is negative 7x cubed. But we're actually going to write it as positive 7x cubed. We're changing the sign. And that's because we're subtracting, just like we do in regular division, regular long division. X to the fourth minus x to the fourth is equal to 0. So these two cancel out, and that will happen every single time. The first term will always cancel out the first term every time we do one of these. Now we're going to do negative 5x cubed plus 7x cubed, which is 2x cubed. Then we're going to carry down the other things. Minus 17x squared is going to get carried down. Plus 20x is going to get carried down. And then plus 13 is also going to be carried down. And now we're going to continue the process. We're now going to divide 2x cubed by x. Just like we originally did x to the fourth. We did the leading term. Here's the new leading term is 2x to the third. We're going to divide it by x. 2x to the third divided by x is 2x squared. And so we're going to write that up on top, plus 2x squared. Now we're going to multiply the 2x squared times x and then times negative 7. So 2x squared times x is 2x cubed. We're going to write 2x cubed, and remember, we're going to change the sign. We're going to make it negative. Okay. Now we're going to do the same thing with the negative 7. 2x squared times negative 7 is negative 14x squared, but we're going to write plus 14x squared. Okay. Then we're going to add. These two are going to cancel each other out, so that's going to become 0. And now we're just going to do negative 17x squared plus 14x squared, which is negative 3x squared. Now we're going to carry down the plus 20x and the plus 13. Now we're going to divide negative 3x squared by x, and that's going to be negative 3x, negative 3x. Now we're going to multiply the negative 3x times the x, and that's going to give us negative 3x squared, but we're going to change it to plus 3x squared. Then we're going to multiply the negative 3x times the negative 7, which is positive 21x, but we're going to change the sign to negative 21x, and then we're going to add. These two are going to cancel each other out. And then 20x minus 21x is negative 1x, or just negative x. And then we're going to bring down the plus 13. Now, once again, we're going to divide negative x by x. Well, negative x divided by x is negative 1. We're going to write that up top, negative 1. Now we're going to multiply the negative 1 again times the x. Negative 1 times x is negative x. But we're going to change the sign to plus x. Then we're going to multiply the negative 1 times the negative 7. That gives us positive 7. But we're going to change the sign to minus 7. And now these first two terms, again, are going to cancel each other out. And now we're going to have 13 minus 7, and that's 6. And then this is what we call the remainder. So this has a remainder of 6, okay? And this is our quotient, and this is our divisor. And so what we do is we identify, we can take these three parts, the divisor and the quotient and the remainder, and we put them in a form. It looks like this. We'll write our x minus 7 as a factor multiplied by our divisor, x cubed plus 2x squared minus 3x minus 1. And then on the very end, we will add the remainder, okay? So what we have here is we have the divisor times the quotient, which we represent as q of x, that's the quotient, or just q sometimes, plus the remainder, which we represent as r. Okay, so now we have another example here. We're going to divide this cubic polynomial here by x plus 4. When we're done, we're going to write the quotient over here, and we're going to write the remainder. And so we're going to take our x plus 4 on the outside, and then on the inside, we're going to put x cubed plus x squared minus 7x plus 25. Okay. And we're going to do x cubed divided by x, which is x squared. And now we're going to do x squared times x, which is x cubed, but we're going to change the sign to a negative. Then we're going to do x squared times positive 4, which is positive 4x squared, but we're going to change it to negative 4x squared. Then these first two terms, x cubed minus x cubed is 0, so they're going to cancel. And now we're going to do x squared minus 4x squared. Well, x squared minus 4x squared is negative 3x squared. Then we're going to carry down the negative 7x and the plus 25. Now we're going to divide negative 3x squared by x, and that's negative 3x. Then we're going to multiply the negative 3x times x, which is negative 3x squared, but we're going to change it to plus 3x squared. Then we're going to take the negative 3x and multiply it by 4. We get negative 12x, but we're going to change it to plus 12x. First two terms are going to cancel each other. Then negative 7x plus 12x is 5x. Then we're going to bring down the plus 25, and we're going to now divide 5x by x. 5x divided by x is just positive 5, so that's plus 5. Now we're going to take our 5 and multiply it by x, that's 5x. We're going to change the sign to negative 5x. Then we're going to take our 5 and multiply it by 4, that gives us 20, but we're going to change it to negative 20. 5x minus 5x, that's 0, and 25 minus 20, that's 5. And so this is our remainder. Our quotient is x squared minus 3x plus 5. So up here we're going to write quotient, x squared minus 3x plus 5, and our remainder is 5. And if we wanted to write it, we could write this. Here, let me show you how this works. Basically what we're saying is that the original dividend, x cubed plus x squared minus 7x plus 25 is equal to the divisor, x plus 4, times the quotient, x squared minus 3x plus 5, plus the remainder, plus 5. Okay, that's the idea. Here's our last example. We're going to take x minus 2 and we're going to divide it out of x cubed minus 5x squared plus 10x minus 8. And when we're done, we're going to want to write the quotient, and we're going to want to write the remainder. Okay? So x cubed divided by x is x squared. X squared times x is x cubed, but we're going to change the sign to negative x cubed. X squared times negative 2 is negative 2x squared, but we're going to change it to plus 2x squared. X cubed minus x cubed, that cancels out, that's 0. And then negative 5x squared plus 2x is negative 3x squared. Now we're going to bring down the plus 10x and the minus 8. Now we're going to divide negative 3x squared by x, which is negative 3x. Negative 3x times x is negative 3x squared. We're going to change it to plus 3x squared. Negative 3x times negative 2 is positive 6x. But we're going to change it to negative 6x. Negative 3x squared and 3x squared, they cancel each other out. 10x minus 6x is 4x. Bring down the minus 8. 4x divided by x is 4. So that's plus 4. Then we're going to multiply the 4 times the x. That gives us 4x. But we're going to change it to minus 4x. 4 times negative 2, that's negative 8, but we're going to change it to plus 8. 4x minus 4x, they cancel each other out. And look at this, negative 8 and plus 8 also cancel each other out, and we have a remainder of 0. So, and this happens sometimes, it's actually a very important thing to have a remainder of 0. It teaches us something about the polynomial. So the remainder is 0, and the quotient is x squared minus 3x plus 4. And so this polynomial right here can be written as x minus 2 times x squared minus 3x plus 4. Notice there's no remainder to add on here because the remainder is 0. And that means we have successfully factored this polynomial. We've successfully factored out an x minus 2. And that is polynomial long division.